all these platforms. We are on the YouTube. We're on Maria Vitorato's YouTube, and we are on LinkedIn. Welcome. Take off that sound there. We're also on LinkedIn. Welcome to everybody watching us on LinkedIn, or we will be momentarily. And we're also on Instagram. Welcome, Circa Coyle, with me today. We are going to be talking about career pivots. Circa is the founder of Beyond Class Career. And you know me, I'm Miss V, founder of the Virtual Careers Hub. Super excited to be with everyone today. And I promise to talk a lot slower, but I'm going to take a breath and give Circa a moment to introduce herself. Circa, I have loved working alongside you for the last almost 4 years, and it's been amazing to see you supporting your clients and coming from an education background as well. Tell us what you've been up to, what type of work that you're focusing on at Beyond Class Careers, and what you hope our followers and viewers are going to walk away with in today's conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maria, for inviting me. So people might know me already from like the Empowering Expat Teachers community. So that is where I support teachers to find like the best international teaching job that they can. But I have also then set up the Beyond Class Careers, which is more so for those teachers, and there are many of them, who want to see what's out for them beyond the classroom, you know, how their skills can transfer, what other careers they can sort of move into. And yeah, that's sort of, where I have come from that. And also with the Beyond Class Careers, it's something I do also at home, kind of in Ireland as well. It's not all online. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I myself am a former expat teacher, turned I suppose entrepreneur, business owner, turned part-time business owner, and now kind of a corporate trainer role. So kind of coming at from, I suppose, experience of two different pivots from teaching as well. So yeah, that's me.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. Circa, you know me, I'm deeply committed and passionate. I think it's more of an addiction now about career development, working with young people, and supporting employers as they look out for young talent. But on the journey, I've come across several hurdles that we can identify clearly with young people transitioning from education to work. It's almost the obvious. We call it transition. But when we're looking at individuals already established in their career and thinking about what's next, sometimes by choice, sometimes by force, and sometimes life kind of brings that to them, right? We call that a pivot in that stage. And when I think of the word pivot, the metaphor of like a tango comes to mind. You know, you're leading, you're following, and you're kind of moving around in that space. And if you're really good at it, it looks like a seamless dance between two. But if you're novice like me, it looks really messy, challenging, you're all in your head, and it can be even painful, right? As you're doing that. Now, putting that metaphor to the side, from your experience and working with your clients, and we're going to dive into specific occupations in a few minutes, but right now, kind of like on the surface level, how have you seen career pivots both a challenge and also a benefit to the clients that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose the challenge, anything when you're pivoting. So I do think also teachers, I suppose, we're not in the most risky type of career. So those people who go into teaching, you know, for a lot of us at the start, it was to have a settled, secure job with the pension back home, you know, permanent hours. So already we've sort of entered the profession not looking maybe for massive change and, you know, massive instability, and looking for risk, you know, to feel alive. So I think traditionally as teachers, we tend to be quite risk averse. We're quite measured. We like to know what we're doing. Our whole thing is based on routines, whether it's with ourselves, with our students. And so for that probably has been the biggest challenge. Becoming very much teaching is your identity, and you do not know what else there is out there for you, what else you can do. So I think actually shifting that identity, a lot of us would link our success and our self-worth to our teaching job, our teaching role. And when you are pivoting, you sort of have to take a step back from that, because what you have spent years, being proud of and introducing yourself as and interlinking your whole life maybe and your worth and your success with, that is to shift. And that is like a huge challenge for a lot of teachers, to step away from that. But also in many careers, when you do change, you will have to start from the bottom of a new career. And that is really tough if you are used to having management or leadership or having the reputation for, getting excellent observation feedback, and you're like the area, you're in that expertise, you're the expert in your field in teaching. You have to go back to a new career and kind of start from the bottom. Now, most teachers progress massively and rapidly in a new career because they are used to like doing 100 things at once. They are, do things to a high degree. They're very responsible. They're hardworking. But you have to recognize, and that's one thing I think when I see some teachers, particularly in Dubai, and they're saying, I want to leave teaching, but I want to go into this new career and I need to earn minimum this and this. If the HR is looking at you as a career change person, ex-teacher, and somebody who's coming from abroad or already in the country who's fully qualified in that role, has many years experience, they're probably going to go with the easier option, which is a person who has the experience. So you have to be prepared to like come in at maybe entry level. You're not going to get in at the role really, like, being realistically. So just knowing that, yes, you might have to start from the bottom. It's challenging, it's uncomfortable, you're learning a new career, but you will do it. Like we do with our students, like growth mindset. Put your mind to it, you will be able to do it. There's so many challenges, because if it was easy, every teacher would have done it by now. But it's really, I think for me, the biggest challenge is the mindset. It's that shifting of identity. It's that starting from the bottom. It's that getting the confidence to actually leave teaching. And then it's like being resilient and knowing that you've got a little bit of a longer journey in this new career, but you will get there. But just to kind of stay the journey.
That's a big one, isn't it? That whole mindset, identity piece. And I wouldn't limit it to teaching alone. I think professions that I've come across where your profession becomes, part of your DNA, I guess, and then having to exit that profession and begin somewhere. It's almost like shedding of who am I if I'm not that. And I know I experienced that when I left education the first time in 2007, and then again in 2022. And even when, between 2015 and 2022, when I was working in an institution, K-12 or secondary institution, I was only teaching part-time, and I still found myself telling people, well, I'm a teacher. Because I found that was part of my identity, but it was also what people understood better than like, what's a career practitioner? Who knows what that is? Or a career strategist, as we term it now. So working on that mindset, how would you approach it? And anyone listening right now, you don't need to be a teacher, because career pivot, I've seen it with engineers, I've seen it with teachers, I've seen it with lawyers, I've seen it with doctors, I've seen it with journalists. I think any type of career where it almost becomes who I am, when people ask you, who are you or what do you do? It's almost like part of, a societal, I guess, acceptance, or, I do belong from this occupation or this profession. So if you're listening and thinking, oh, well, that doesn't really apply to me, as the work that I do begins to evolve and looking deeper, I've seen it across. Would you agree, Circa, with other clients that you've worked with outside of the teaching profession, that you've also seen this, need for mindset and identity shift in career?
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, to be honest, I mainly work with teachers, so I can only speak for my client base. But I would imagine any sort of one where you've like spent years studying and spent years getting promotions and going higher, and it's natural. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely a big one. Okay, moving that, you talked about mindsets. So talk to us more about what you would suggest that you're
Mm.
for anyone thinking about a career pivot, what they need to be doing. And I know sometimes when we talk about the mindset, you also mentioned the growth mindset. You know, I hear students and clients ask me, well, you know, how can I be positive? Like life's hard. I need to work. So how does one build the mindset and also, you know, be honest and authentic about the challenges of that pivot?
So, what I would say is definitely think if you've got a good plan, that's sort of half of it. If you know, okay, this is where I am, this is where I want to be. Um, in the sense that I see, and like we mentioned sort of before, Maria, I suppose doing this work while you still have a teaching job. So not waiting till like you're pushed breaking point. You leave teaching and then you've got nothing and you have to start that whole career pivot, career change journey. That would be a huge one. Like that whole idea of fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Sort of. I do think even just for yourself emotionally and everything else, I think emotional regulation is really important. I would do that with clients, even who are looking for a new teaching job hunting alone, never mind career pivots. Constantly checking out yourself every day, doing something to emotionally regulate. Um, whether it's a breathing exercise, like it can just be like 2 minutes long. Whether it's like EFT, emotional freedom tapping, where you're sort of repeating things to yourself because it is it, it's going to be a little bit up and down, like anything, even when you're searching for a job in teaching or in international teaching, like it is all up and down because you can only control so much from your side. And then when you're out applying, there's a million reasons why an employer might go with someone else or you mightn't hear back. And you just sort of have to kind of like just check in with yourself and emotionally regulate and not to spiral, not to sort of go to instant worst case scenario, a year from now. It's sort of like just ground yourself, keep going. But I would definitely recommend doing it while you're teaching because you can easily, not easily, but you can throw in some CVs. It gives you an idea if you're hearing back from these new employers. And if not, maybe you need to work with a career strategist. Maybe you need to work with a CV writer. Maybe you need to do a little bit more work. One thing I would say, every CV will be different. I think that's it. But they're desperate. Teachers might be naturally, due to all the stress and the admin and, maybe toxic workplace, eager to leave. And it's that idea of like, I just want a career change CV. What is that? Like, but for which new career? Like all would be
Yeah.
very different. So just that sort of like not just having the one generic applying to lots of different careers and then getting disheartened when you don't hear back. I think the bit before it is really important is to kind of hone in on the careers that you actually would like to do, that you would, be passionate about, that align with your dream life, that they have the career values that you want. So kind of honing in as opposed to having a million different new careers to move into.
Yeah, I love that. And for anyone listening right now, I would urge you or recommend that you remember the career is a lifelong journey, and the occupations that you adopt along that journey don't need to be in the same industry. And I think this is pivotal in our turbulent workforce, and particularly as we're, in a time in the world where your biggest competitor may not be your neighbor. It may be somebody in a completely different geographic location because the company is looking at remote work, or it may even be a form of technology because the organization might be, lowering costs of humans and increasing their tech. It could be numerous things. So I think that once people begin to understand, well, listen, if I'm going to live, for 75, 85, 105 plus years, is it realistic for me to think that this job should carry me forward for 30, 40, 50 years? So that we already need to shift that. And I think that comes from education. And this is why we're always, hammering down on we need to educate young people. We need to bring proper career education. And I know that practitioners like yourself and myself and across the globe are not only advocating for this, but they're deeply invested in bringing the actions required. So blah, 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 Miss V, here we go again. But I think that education piece is key. So when an individual understands that a pivot is natural, it's a natural process in one's career. So the question isn't, should I pivot? I believe the question should become, when I pivot, what will I need to do? And also, and I know we talked about this before I click the button go live, I really see it as, and I am very, visual in metaphors, but I see it as, if you're going to travel on vacation, unless you're in the 1%, you're most likely going to plan out that journey. You're going to look in your closet, pick out the outfits, you're going to put things in the suitcase. If you're anything like me, you're going to unpack and pack about 10 times because you overpack. And so that whole process of planning would be natural. Yet in your career with a pivot, why wait until you have to pivot? Begin the strategy before. So Circa, if we look at that and you think about teachers as an example, what should they do before they begin the pivot? And if you could put a number to it, how early should they begin to prepare for that pivot?
Gosh, I would say honestly the year before, if possible. So sort of giving themselves that long space of time. Life happens, you know how busy as teachers we get between reports, between parents' evenings, inspections, and there could be large chunks of time you can't do it. So I would give yourself a year, like even academic year, more than that beforehand. You also, if you're internationally, you have to give your intentions quite early. So probably actually maybe nearly a year before the intentions, I know you can say unsure, but it's just one of those things that people, some teachers who I've worked with who have found the intentions very helpful, because once they knew, they felt very confident saying, no, I'm not coming back, and it kind of then was like excitement for the year because they were applying, or they had already some stuff, in mind. So yeah, I would say definitely like at least a year. Like, think how long you're in teaching. It's going to take time to get out of the teaching, and when you think about it, the job hunting process itself will take months. Like, that's when you have your CV and cover letter. That takes months, when you're applying and maybe getting interviews. So working back from that, I would say about at least 12 months to give yourself that. Yeah.
So strategically, a year before. Now, going to the mindset mentally, where on that journey do they, need to prepare themselves for the pivot?
12 months before, I think, because it's going to be up and down, and you've had one good day at teaching or something where you're thinking, oh, maybe I will, and they're like, actually no. But that's again that whole journey. It's a regulation, to like, okay, take a breath, and I suppose as well, keeping momentum. That's also part of the mindset, like keeping the momentum, because it's very exciting at the start, when you still have your job, so you still have your salary, and it's fine, it's great, but you've got this whole other world you're looking at beyond. You feel something beyond your classroom, and that is exciting when you're exploring new jobs. Like, I love, like, when I work with young people and we're helping them look at different careers, or it's exciting to be like, oh my god, I never this job existed, or wow, that I could do that. So that part is really exciting. So keeping the momentum, and then keeping the momentum still then when we are actually facing the pivot and applying to new jobs. But I'm always a fan of applying, even if you don't plan to leave that year, but kind of start applying, because then you can gauge your success in hearing back, and that gives you a big wake-up call as to whether you need to change up what you're doing, work with someone else, get someone's feedback, So I would, 12 months.
I love
yeah.
I would agree, and I would add to that, and don't tell
Mm.
anybody you're doing it unless, it's
Yes.
your line
Yes.
manager and they have to know.
Great idea.
And the reason I say that is because sometimes when you tell people that you're going to pivot, complete, 180 or 360,
Yeah.
they tend to feed you that fear of like, oh my God, what if it won't work out? What are you going to do? And I think I
Yeah.
remember when I was pivoting and first it's really exciting and everyone's like, wow, you're doing it. Like, that's so exciting. What are you going to do? And then you kind of go, well, I'm going to do this. And some people will get it and cheerlead
Mm.
you, and others, they won't say anything. They'll just kind of, there's that
Bit of me
awkwardness of like,
too. Yeah.
oh, oh,
You're so
okay,
brave.
and yeah, but you know what? In fairness, in interviews that I've had with professionals
Mm.
outside of education, they don't look at pivot, I think, the way that teachers would. And I know I'm generalizing, so I apologize for the generalization. And I don't mean that it's less fearing or less scary. I mean, it's more common that I could work for company X and do the same job in company Y, right?
Mm.
And if I left, the hospitality industry and decided to jump into, I don't know, education industry, I
Mhm.
can still do the skill in one and the other. I would, obviously need to brush up on industry insights. But
Mhm.
when I hear teachers saying, I'm leaving teaching, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do, right? And then being told, well, whatever you do in corporate, when you come back to teaching, we don't recognize those years of experience. I think that's another
Mhm.
factor in why individuals might be scary. Anyway,
Mhm.
we're at the 20-minute mark. I know we went live slightly later on Instagram, but I know that people on LinkedIn and YouTube have been hearing us talk for the last 20 minutes. Is there any last thoughts? Because you know me, we could go on for hours, but we are going to wrap it up. Keep it nice, short, and sweet, and maybe jump on again if our audiences really want us to. But Circa, if there's anything that you think, I want, I want everyone watching this or watching the replay to take this action step and do it if they're thinking of a pivot.
Career pivots are 100% possible, but planning, planning, planning.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's
Planning,
paramount.
planning, planning.
Yeah.
It is planning, planning, planning. And that is it. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching and enjoying the journey. Or I hope that's what I tell myself that you are if you're watching us right now.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time and the effort. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and however old you are, a career pivot is a pivot. You're not a tree, you can move. And don't be afraid, take the leap. But as Circa said, and I echo, strategy and planning is essential. Thank you, Circa, for being with me. How can we find you if we want to reach out, Circa?
Yeah, perfect. So I have just my Instagram at circacoil_EET. I think about that. So definitely find me there. Yeah.
And you have got some incredible programs for teachers thinking about international pivots in education or out. So if you are a teacher and you're thinking, I need help, I'm planning for a pivot in 2027, because
Yeah.
you would have already signed your contract for 2026. So,
Yes.
we're not going to get you out of that. So if you're thinking of a pivot in 2027 and you are in education, you definitely want to be reaching out to Circa. And if you do have teenagers or university students living in your space, please do reach out and learn all about MV Careers Virtual Hub. That's it for me. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you at our next live on Monday when I bring the car lady to talk about her tips on setting up a business and how she did her career pivot from, no joke, education Circa. She trained as an educator, but never spent a day in an official classroom. So join us on Monday and we'll talk all about that. Thank you, everybody.